There we
All
go.
right. Okay. So we have been talking about minerals. We finished up our macro minerals yesterday. Macro meaning that we have them in large amounts in our body and we need to take them in larger amounts in our diets. We talked about the role of the minerals, how they interact with each other, what they do in the body. We were able to really get some interesting comparisons to, how do these minerals affect us physiologically? We talked yesterday specifically about sodium chloride and its effect on the kidneys. And you guys just finished doing the urinary system in A&P. And so we were able to kind of critically think through the role of sodium chloride in the physiology of the kidney and how we know that the medulla is super salty and that promotes water moving out of the nephron and be recycled by the kidney back into circulation. The more salty the medulla is, the more water we pull out. And then in the ascending loop of Henle, we have the descending pulling water, trying desperately to dilute out the salt. And on the other side, we're dumping salt back in. So depending on how much salt we're dumping into the medulla will determine how much water we pull out. It's kind of funny. In my brain, I kind of see these two guys in a rowboat. And one guy is pumping water out of the rowboat and the other guy is pumping water into the rowboat. And it just, how much water the one guy is pumping in determines how much water the other guy is pumping out. And that's kind of what the nephrons are doing in relation to into our salt. So today we're going to get started on microminerals. Microminerals are found in very small amounts, much smaller. We also call them trace elements or trace minerals because we just need teeny tiny amount. We don't find them in very large quantities in our bodies. So let me get in here and let's see. That is not the one I want. Try that again. This is the one I want. All right. So our microminerals, as I said, are trace elements. They are present in very small amounts. And because they're present in small amounts, it means we need them in smaller amounts in our diets. We don't need them in as large amounts. And in fact, because we only need them in small amounts, very often we're a little more likely to see toxic reactions to our microminerals because we only need them in a tiny amount. And if you start taking them in larger quantities than what your body needs, then we start seeing toxic reactions. So the first one here is zinc. Any of you that have kids, your mums, your dads, you've got children of your own, maybe you've got nieces or nephews and you've changed a diaper or two, you know all about diaper cream. You've got all different kinds. You've got what, Desitin, I think is one of them. You got Boudreaux's butt paste. I like this one, the baby anti-monkey butt cream.
Never even heard of that. That's funny.
Yeah, this one, I like this one. So all of the diaper creams, regardless of what brand you get, they are zinc oxide. Zinc promotes skin and wound healing. That's a big one. So when you have the diaper rash and you put the diaper rash cream on, it's the zinc that's going to promote healing of that very delicate tissue. But wait, there's more. Zinc activates 200 enzymes. And remember, the word enzyme just means stuff that turns things on and off in your body. So zinc is a huge factor to the appropriate physiology of our bodies. It's also going to help us use our proteins and our carbohydrates. And remember what I told you guys, if one of these minerals specifically on the PowerPoint includes specific energy producing nutrient metabolism, I am going to test you over it. I'm not even going to be coy. This would be a great test question. What two energy producing nutrients does zinc aid in the metabolization of? Zinc also helps with our immunity, fetal development. You have in your prenatal vitamins and mineral supplements, very high in zinc. And it's fabulous. Even if you don't have children, you should have a tube of diaper rash cream in your house. I'm just saying. It works for everything. Got a sunburn?
Tattoos.
If you've got a sunburn, don't put aloe on it. Slather yourself in diaper rash cream. If you burn yourself cooking, slather it with diaper rash cream. If you get a rash, if you get a bug bite, if you get a mosquito bite, slather it in diaper rash cream. If you have puffy eyes, diaper rash cream. I'm not kidding. If you have a pimple, if you have, those big blind pimples that you get that are super sore, slather it in diaper rash cream. Slather it all over your face. If you suffer from cystic acne, slather diaper rash cream all over your face. I'm telling you, it's amazing. There's nothing it can't do. So
Thank you for the tip.
it
What about
is
eczema?
The acne.
eczema. Yes. Diaper rash cream.
I'll have to get some for my kid.
Literally everything you can think of, slather it in diaper rash cream. And we do have all of these different brands, but the primary ingredient really is just zinc oxide. Doesn't matter what brand. Now, if you're putting it on open wounds, now it's not going to hurt you, like it's not going to do anything to you, but some of them burn like fire. So I'm just going to warn you on that, because they're also perfumed. There's a reason why Desitin smells like baby powder, right? It's perfumed. Some of the perfumes, like excuse me, Boudreaux's butt cream, that one it smells really great, but I found that my skin is very sensitive to it. I like the baby anti-monkey butt cream. It smells nice and it doesn't have the alcohol that burns. So it's personal preference, but I'm telling you, go get you some diaper rash cream. And this one I love too, because it has calamine lotion. So that takes down any itch of bug bites. If you get stung by something, anything.
And the fragrance make you break out worse though? Like with Desitin, like that didn't work for my son because it made him worse.
So
Can that happen?
sometimes you might be sensitive to the perfume that they put in, and you've just got it's trial and error. It's gonna be trial and error.
Yeah, A&D is the only thing that works for him.
Yeah, but I put it on everything. Again, sunburn. Oh my God, there's nothing better for a sunburn than diaper rash cream, because of the promotion of the skin and wound healing. If you've ever watched like a surfing shows, they put that white stuff on their nose. Guess what it is? Zinc. Because your nose, when you're on the water and the sun is bouncing off the water, your nose, everyone who's been to the beach knows, first thing that gets sunburned is your nose. So you put a big thick layer of zinc oxide and it helps prevent you from getting sunburned. So there you go.
Been added to my grocery list.
Add it to the grocery.
Why then do they have, I thought that dogs were supposed to only wear sunscreen that does not contain zinc?
So zinc oxide is not in itself a sunscreen. What it does is it is not working like the 30 SPF or the 60 SPF. The way that zinc oxide is working in humans is it's a physical barrier. It would be no different than if I took a piece of cardboard and put it over my nose. However, the zinc does help to prevent, because I put this schmear and it's assisting in any skin healing that needs to be done. If I'm putting like actual sunscreen on, that's completely different. And you're right. In our hairless dogs, in our white dogs, pink noses, the sunscreen that they need is different. This is not sunscreen. This is after the fact. This is either you put a big thick barrier on it to prevent the sun from beaming down, or help to repair the damage afterwards. All right, so if I have a zinc deficiency nutritionally, all right, now we've talked about smearing it all over our bodies. However, we do need it nutritionally because it is a trace element. We do need it for internal physiological things. So we know deficiency. When I say deficiency, what do you all say?
Anorexia.
Anorexia. Alopecia, which means what?
Hair loss.
Hair loss. Hair loss.
Alopecia is going to be hair loss. Impaired reproduction, well, that makes sense. If zinc is a primary component of fetal development and I don't have it, which means my fetus can't develop, that's going to impair my ability to reproduce. It's going to affect my digestive system, depigmentation of the hair. And this is going to be where you just, the hair kind of goes silver gray. It loses its color. And then right here, conjunctivitis. Your conjunctiva is right here. It's the inside membrane of your eye. Here I have a normal conjunctiva. And here I have a very serious conjunctivitis, right? Now, little tip from me to you. There are a whole lot of other things that can cause conjunctivitis, right? Trauma, at different times, like allergies.
Can entropium cause that
And
too?
entropion and ectropion can both cause conjunctivitis. So how do I know if it's something like a systemic, meaning full body involvement, like a nutritional deficiency or an immune reaction, versus a trauma?
They would have
Maisie,
other things, right?
could be other things, but I'm doing something specific. So Maisie goes out if the grass is too high, my gardener hasn't come and cut the grass. And every now and then, probably once a year, she whaps herself in the eye with a grass frond. And she'll come in and she's winking at me and tears running down her face. And I'm like, oh, geez. So I got to take her in and we do. Have you guys done your fluorescein stains yet? So we got to check her for a corneal ulcer because that'll determine what kind of medication we're going to use. So how do I, if I look at her and I see that she's got some sort of trauma in her eye, how do I know that it is a traumatic, something has damaged her eye, versus something systemic going on within her body?
Would it be inflamed?
Both are going to be inflamed, absolutely.
You would see like something on the stain, right? Or does that matter?
Not necessarily. You don't have to have, the fluorescein stains are to look for corneal ulcers, and you can certainly have trauma to the eye without it being a corneal ulcer.
You would see
When-
another one of these signs.
Is
No.
it the pressure, that pressure dial thing? No?
Not necessarily the pressure. Here's what I'm looking at. I'll lead you to it. When she whaps herself in the eye, how many eyes are involved?
One.
If I have something systemic, meaning my whole body is involved, like something nutritional, how many eyes do you think are going to be involved?
Two.
Two. So typically, if you have one eye involved, it's going to be some sort of external trauma. If you have both eyes involved, it's something systemic. Something's going on inside of the animal to affect both eyes. So there's my little eyeball trivia for you. I do love Fridays because I can sit in here and drink my Diet Coke.
I just asked Zoe, I go, did she just crack open another one?
I did. I need the caffeine. I was up late playing Animal Crossing. I finally got my island to 3 stars and I got my terraforming and I'm trying to get the layout of my island and I hate everything right now. So I'm just running around gathering all my trees and trying to do waterfalls. And I'm just, next thing you know, you look up, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh, Jesus, I have to get up in 4 hours. So,
Oh my gosh, good luck.
yeah, I don't know how many of you play this Animal Crossing New Horizons, but it's, whew, is it a time?
I just started playing the camp one on my phone, like the campsite one on my phone.
No, I got a Switch. My sister bought me a Switch for Christmas. And so I've been playing Animal Crossing since Christmas Day. And whew, it's addictive. So I need the caffeine today.
I played it for a while, like when you first get it, and then afterwards you stop playing it. That's what happens to a lot of
I
people.
had my husband hide it from me.
I'm really bad like that with the Sims. Like I'm addicted to the Sims. It's bad.
Yeah, it's relaxing and it just is mindless and I love it. All right, so back to zinc. Toxicity wise, zinc, you really can't overdose yourself on it. Slather yourself in diaper rash cream. It's relatively non-toxic. However, where we will see a definite toxicity is when animals eat pennies. Pennies used to be made of copper, hence the copper coating on them. But pennies these days, because the copper, it was more expensive to make a penny out of copper than what it was worth. It costs more than a penny to make it. In fact, right now, it still makes, they lose so much money on pennies. They should just take pennies out of circulation. That's my opinion. Canada did. There's no such thing as a Canadian penny anymore. They use a rounding system. So works much better. But pennies are made of zinc. And so the copper coating on a penny is less than tissue paper thin. And so the stomach acid dissolves the copper coating very, very quickly. And then we'll start to dissolve the zinc and that'll cause some toxic reactions. So I've seen a couple of zinc toxicities in my career. One of them was a golden retriever puppy named Haas. I'll never forget him because his owner was very pretty to look at. And Haas came in, he was one of those just big, dumb, stupid golden retriever puppies. You know, he was about 16 weeks old, big dog. He had paws on him the size of bare feet. And he came in one day and he just was ADR. And we had just gotten a digital radiograph machine, boys and their toys. And so we were taking radiographs of literally everything that came in. And so we took a radiograph and he had all these coins in his stomach. We weren't even anticipating finding anything. And so he did have a zinc toxicity. We were able to send them to the specialist. He had an endoscopic procedure, removed the coins, and he ended up recovering just fine. But yeah, the copper coating is just super wafer thin. All right, so the next one is manganese. Manganese helps with lipid and carb metabolism. So make a little star beside that because we know, I've already said, if it states a specific energy producing nutrient, I'm going to test you over it. Bone development, reproduction. Every time I hear the word manganese, I don't know how many of you, here's another one of my guilty pleasures. The show Big Bang Theory that used to be on TV, Sheldon and the gang. Oh, I love that show. That's one of those I can just put it on in the background and I don't even have to watch it anymore. And so there's a whole scene when him and Penny go to the grocery and she's going to buy some supplements. And he's like, well, that's the recipe for expensive urine. And she's like, maybe that's what I'm going for. And he's like, well, you're going to want some manganese. So I don't know. It's one of those weird photographic memory things, and I don't know. Deficiency, well, if it has a role in bone development and energy producing nutrient metabolism, if I don't have it, I'm not going to be able to access the energy to help me grow and reproduce. So that's the primary deficiency that I'm going to see with this manganese. Now, manganese not to be confused with magnesium. Remember, magnesium, macro mineral, manganese, micro mineral. They still both have a role in bone development, but magnesium has a much more robust role. Remember, it was a component of bone. This just assists in the appropriate development. It's not toxic. Go to the CVS, get all the manganese you want. It's not toxic. This picture has nothing to do with anything. I just liked it. I just imagine that you're counting down in your head, 3, 2, 1, and this cat just beats the ever-loving crap out of this dog. Right? Can you all visualize it? She's just like bah, 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 bah. Little boxing cat. Oh, selenium, how I hate you. Selenium is my arch enemy. I'm like a superhero. I have so many arch enemies in my life. How many of you have gone through life and never had an arch enemy? I've had multiple.
Selenium is also my arch enemy.
Is it? For why?
Because the breeds of chickens that I bred, they had to intake a high selenium in their diet. So they had to eat a lot of black boiled sunflower seeds and stuff like that. And if they didn't have enough selenium in their diet, they got things like wryneck, or I didn't get eggs hatching. It was just, oh, I hated selenium.
Well, it doesn't sound like you hated selenium. It sounded like you hate the chickens.
No, I love my chickens. It was just the selenium not wanting to work with them was so annoying.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you need to get less, needy chickens.
They're pretty adorable.
Don't they make chickens that are a little bit easier to take care of?
They do, but I can't sell those ones for more money.
Oh.
I have little cute fluffy ones that I show and stuff.
What sort of chickens are they?
Silkies and Serranas.
Oh, I have seen silkies. They're pretty.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Send
pretty
pictures of those. Oh my gosh. I love those.
For you, so since you're in the whole chicken deal, my husband sells exotic pheasants as well.
As tempting as that is, I have to hold back on all of my wants for all of that until I can get a house here that lets me do all that.
Well, since I never knew about pheasants till I got with him, and they're really amazing.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You guys should be posting pictures of your birds. Post those on the Facebook. So what selenium does, why you're having to give it to your chickens, is it helps with the use of vitamin E. Vitamin E, remember, is a biological antioxidant. It is a fat-soluble vitamin that helps with immunity. So without the availability of vitamin E, my immune system will suffer. My free radicals are just going to go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But it's mainly the immunity development. And there are species like your silkies and conditions that can cause your body to have a problem using the vitamin E. And that's why you have to supplement and use the selenium, because the selenium is what paves the road for your body to use the vitamin E. So that's kind of, these two go hand in hand. You can't use one without the other. You can't use vitamin E without selenium. And again, that's why you're having to give it to your chickens, and that's why it affects their ability to hatch, because everything reproduction hinges on, is the adult who is reproducing physically capable of safely having a baby? nutritional deficiencies and toxicities are the #1 reason why animals don't reproduce, because it's Mother Nature. Mother Nature looks at my body and goes, she can't even take care of herself. She doesn't even have the nutrients to deal with her own issues. How am I going to give her a baby? And then bippity boppity, I don't get a baby. So it's going to kind of impact everything, including reproduction. So that's why you're not getting eggs when you don't supplement the selenium. It's not the selenium that's causing it. It's the lack of the ability to use the vitamin E that is causing the reproductive issues. So there you go. Real world nutrition. Pew, 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 coming at you. If I have a deficiency, well, reproductive failure, that I just talked about that. I'm going to have issues with my muscles. And what this is a protein that kind of misfires. And so it does not develop properly, and it causes the muscles not to work appropriately. And it causes them to weaken, specifically right around the joints. And you end up with an animal. Remember, animals are digigrade, right? They walk on their toes. And when they develop this dystrophy, they go plantigrade. And so they'll be walking on parts of their foot that they shouldn't normally be walking on. I got a picture coming up to show you. Selenium deficiency is also going to cause fluid to accumulate within the tissue, and it's going to have an effect on your kidneys. In fact, a lot of these minerals we can now see have a pretty profound effect on the urinary system, whether it be with kidney, renal mineralization, bladder stones, bladder crystals. Because it's the urinary tract that is regulating how these minerals are either recirculated in the blood or flushed out of the body. That's why a lot of these minerals have a pretty profound impact on the urinary system. Here we have muscular dystrophy. So here you have a dog walking in digigrade, right? They're walking on their phalanges. If we look at this back foot, let me increase this. So if we're looking at this back foot right here, this is the same as my foot. So what you need to do, you see this little thing right here, the hock? This is the equivalent of the heel of my foot. Imagine, if you will, for a minute, let me move you guys. So imagine for a minute, oh, I can't do my, let's draw. So this animal is going to be very stylish. Oh, that's terrible. Try this one more time. I really need to bring my stylet in here. All right, so we're going to be very stylish. We're going to draw this. And then we're going to put a heel. So this animal is now wearing high heels. So when you wear your high heels and you're walking on your toes, you've now put your foot into a digigrade. Here you can see we've gone plantigrade. This again is the equivalent of the heel of my foot. Here is my ankle. Here is the length of my foot, my metatarsals, and my toes. And that's not normal for these digigrade animals. And that has to do with this type of protein that is weakened by this mineral.
Can that be from other things too? Because
Oh, absolutely.
A boxer
Absolutely.
puppy that was a puppy mill puppy, and he had all that going on.
Oh, absolutely. There are a ton of stuff that can cause digigrade to go to plantigrade. We see it with puppy mills because they're in a very tiny cage, and during those formative growth years, they simply don't have the room and their feet grow abnormally. We also see it in elderly diabetics, specifically cats. It's a condition called neuropathy. And in that case, it's not so much from selenium as it is a secondary to the diabetes. So there's a ton of stuff that can cause these animals to go plantigrade. This just happens to be one of them. All right, if I have a selenium excess, oh Lordy Lord. All right, so I'm going to share with you now one of the worst days I have ever had. Probably top 10 worst days of my life. So this is many years ago. This is probably 20 years ago, before a lot of you were born. God, I feel old. All right. Sorry, I'm wallowing in self-pity for a second. So I used to take a bunch of supplements. As I have some immune on and off stuff that goes on. It's not important, but I would have to take vitamin E supplements. But when you do that, you also in tandem have to take selenium. So I did not realize, because I go to the CVS and I'd stock up on my supplements. I was on quite a few supplements at that point, try and bolster my immune system. I didn't realize there were two different types of selenium that you could purchase at CVS. One is called blushing and one is called non-blushing. And the difference between these two, they're both selenium, but the big difference is what we call the vehicle. So when you take one of these supplements, the mineral or the vitamin is wrapped in a little car. And it's the car that drives it around your body and delivers it to different areas. And then your body knows how to use it. These two different types of selenium both use different cars. And the problem is that you can develop an allergy, not to the selenium, but to the car, the vehicle that's driving it around the body. But when you have an allergy to this vehicle, it gives you the same symptoms as an excess. So let me set you the story. I was working in private practice and I lived quite a ways away from where I worked. I live on the southwest side. I won't tell you where because I don't want any of you showing up at my house. I love you, but I don't love you enough to have you come to my home. Yes, I'm just saying. So I live on the southwest side, but I worked up in Cypress. So I was looking at about between an hour and an hour and a half commute each way. So what I would do is I would get my Diet Cokes, line them up, because I'm talking, it was like a 2 or 3 Diet Coke kind of trip. So, and I would get a little Dixie cup and I'd have all my supplements. I was on like 15 different pills at that point. And as I was driving, I would just take a supplement, do my Diet Coke, take a supplement, do my Diet Coke. And by the time I got to work, because if I took them all at once, it made me nauseous. I don't know if any of you have taken a lot of vitamins, they'll make you nauseous. So if you take them slowly over time, it's much better for you. So I had opened this new packet of selenium that I had purchased, and I'd been taking it for a couple of days, not realizing it was different. Should have done my research, my fault. So I'm driving in my car and I'm about 3/4 of the way to work. And there's a reason why I have these in the order that I do, because this is the order that they came to me. So I'm driving, just bopping along, listening to my radio, drinking my Diet Coke. And this first symptom hit me. Now, when I say a vomiting spasm, here's what I mean by that. When you want to vomit, you know you're going to vomit, right? You start getting the hypersalivation, you get the rock feeling in your stomach, and you're like, uh-oh, I need a bucket or a toilet, like right now. When you have a vomiting spasm, there's no warning. There's no warning at all that you're about to spew. So I'm feeling great, getting ready mentally to get to work. And I felt like I needed to burp. Well, if any of you drink Diet Coke, I see some of you drinking sodas in the morning. You know, the best burps you get are those soda burps in the morning. The ones where you're just like taking down walls. So I'm like, oh, I need to burp. I'm alone in my car. So I go to burp and I just went, and couldn't open my mouth wide enough to get it out. Painted the inside of my windshield with Diet Coke. I mean, like painted, like I'm like, ugh. And I'm like, and I'm still driving. And I'm like, okay, that was weird. It was so bad, you guys. It was so bad. Okay, it's Friday. It's fun. It was so bad because it was only Diet Coke. Okay, I hadn't eaten anything other than the supplements that I had taken. But it dripped down into the vents of my car. And I had to sell the car because anytime I turned the AC or the heater on, it would blow vomit smell into the car. I know. So I get to work and I'm like, okay, well, I'm closer to work than I am home. So I just continue on. And I get to work first thing in the morning. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm there to help open and get my pre-surgicals done, all of that. Well, I go to get out of my car and that's when number 2. So we've got this one, check. Number 2. It was like I was 4 tequilas in. Suddenly, I was spinning. I was like, oh my God, gravity works. Couldn't walk. And so thankfully, there were no clients there at the time. So I'm literally crawling. I'm soaked in Diet Coke vomit. And I'm crawling on my hands and knees, trying to get up to the clinic door. And both of my receptionists are there, just kind of standing at the door, looking at me like, they thought I was joking around. And I'm like, no, help me, something's wrong. So I get in, I prop myself up against the wall, and now my mind is reeling. I'm like, okay, something's really wrong here. They're like, do we need to call 911? I'm like, no, don't call 911. Let me think this through. Well, then, I'm sitting there and suddenly my mouth starts filling up with saliva. And I'm not talking like, oh, I'm thinking of Chipotle and my mouth is watering a little. I am talking Mastiff on a hot day, to the point where I had to get a towel in my lap and just open my mouth because I couldn't swallow it fast enough. It was drowning me. I can tell you quite seriously, when you're covered in vomit, you can't stand up and you're hypersalivating, you do not want no Chipotle burrito. You're not exactly thinking about your next meal. The final one that I got that day was this one, and this one was terrifying. The dyspnea, difficulty breathing. So it felt like, if anybody in here has asthma, you take a deep breath, and it doesn't matter how deep you breathe, it doesn't feel like you've breathed deep enough. That's what this was. And so now I'm terrified. I'm like, oh geez, I'm about to die. And they're like, we need to call 911. And again, I'm like, no, I have super crappy health insurance with the clinic. I can't afford a 911 call. So I started thinking what was different. And the only thing I could think of was the selenium. So we go in with our very limited internet access at that point, because it was 20 years ago. And it turns out we did find selenium excess and literally this laundry list of symptoms that I had just experienced. So I had vomited up this selenium. I can't drive home, right? I can't even walk. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to wait it out. So I go into my boss's office and I just kind of sat on the floor for a while, and luckily, a lot of these symptoms abated pretty quickly. It was within about 2 hours. About a day later, now I didn't notice this one. All of my coworkers noticed this one. For some reason, it'll give you a garlicky breath. And I'm talking breath like you've just eaten 4 cloves of garlic. It oozes out of your pores. I was not allowed to do rooms. I was not allowed to see patients because it was so bad. And that lasted for about 4 days. Now, luckily, the one I did not get is this final one. However, I did have a soft-coated Wheaten Terrier that had been getting supplements from the owner, got all these symptoms, but all his toenails popped off, leaving just the quick underneath. So when I start testing you over selenium excess, you can just think of Miss Huff's very bad day. Miss Huff's terrible, terrible day, covered in vomit, can't walk, Mastiff on a hot day, no Chipotle for me, having trouble breathing, and then dispersing a room in 3 seconds. So that was the worst day ever. That was the second worst day ever. All right, so the next one is iodine. When I say iodine, you should immediately think thyroid. Iodine and thyroid production. Remember, our thyroid is in our throat, just caudal to our larynx, and it produces a hormone that regulates your metabolism. Metabolism is how efficiently is your body able to utilize nutrients. The two hormones that your thyroid produces, and you don't have to write this down, it's just so you've heard it before. You may go into these when you get right now into the endocrine system. Thyroxine and triiodothyronine. So this is known as T3 because tri. So you have T3 and T4. And iodine is super important for the appropriate function of your thyroid. In fact, one of the protections that you will see us use in radiology, if any of you have passed by radiology, you'll see that we're all wearing these very heavy lead gowns, but we also have a collar that we put on, and that's a thyroid protector. The thyroid is very, very sensitive to radiation. Think of the thyroid like a big sponge, and it just sops up radiation like crazy. And so we've got to protect it from the radiation. In fact, one of the things that we use, not when we're doing radiology, but if we were in danger of having radiation poisoning, is you start taking large quantities of iodine. And essentially what happens is iodine essentially targets specifically the thyroid. It does not pass go. It does not collect $200. It goes directly to your thyroid. And so the idea is that because it's able to permeate the tissue so well, if I fill the thyroid up with iodine, there's no space for radiation to get in. Think about it like a little token box. And if I fill that up with something that's not going to hurt me, then there's no room for something that might hurt me, like radiation. In fact, if any of you watched the show, there was a show on HBO called Chernobyl, and it was a drama series about the radiation accident in Chernobyl. And the first thing that they did the minute they had the meltdown is everyone started grabbing their iodine out of their desk and just taking handfuls of iodine. When I lived in Canada, we lived in a town right next to the largest nuclear power plant in North America, the Pickering Power Plant. You can Google it. It's still there. It's going to be decommissioned, but it's there. So we had to go through nuclear meltdown drills when I was a little kid in school. And so we would have to mimic taking an iodine tablet. And so the minute you hear iodine, you immediately think thyroid. If I don't have iodine, my thyroid gland is going to be very unhappy. And when the thyroid gland gets unhappy, it starts to swell up. And you develop something called a goiter. Now, this is not, oh, my glands are swollen. Burr, burr, burr. Ooh, my glands are a little swollen. Ooh. That's weird. But we're talking like tube throat. They've got this huge like tire underneath their neck. It's a goiter. I got a picture of a cat with a goiter coming up here in a minute. Deficiency is going to be reproduction. We talked about that. Rough hair coat, it interferes with your metabolism. Well, if my metabolism is screwed up, I am not going to be using my energy producing nutrients effectively. It's going to cause my hair to get lost. Not get lost. It's going to cause me to lose my hair. Like, get lost, hair. It's going to cause me to be apathetic, meaning, I don't care. That's what apathy is. If I ask you, what's the definition of apathy? And you're like, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, great job. That's exactly right. We can also have a thickening of the skin. We see this very often with different types of thyroid conditions. And then obviously lethargy, because I don't have access to my energy producing nutrients. So those are all of the iodine deficiencies. And the great thing is about iodine. Oh, here we have our goiter. So you see this big kind of tube, this big tire looking thing under the chin.
Looks like a bird chest.
It looks like a furry chest, but it's not. It's an extension of the chin. Here's a goiter. So the thyroid itself is this little butterfly gland. Looks like this. Get my camera. It looks like this. We have two wings that come around to the back of the trachea, and then they're connected by a thin band called the isthmus. You'll learn about that in AP, the isthmus. And here we have hypertrophy of the thyroid, and that causes the goiter. But the great thing about iodine is that you only got to learn one, because the excesses are the same clinical signs as the deficiencies. So when I have an animal come in with a increased hypertrophied thyroid gland, if the clinical signs are the same for deficiency and excess, how do I know which one it is?
Do you have multiple symptoms?
So it doesn't matter if I have an iron deficiency, I could have the exact same clinical signs as one of you that has an iron excess. So just by looking at me, you can't tell if I'm having a deficiency or an excess. What do I do?
Ask the owner.
Do some blood work.
I was about to say,
To say the blood work.
Yeah, do additional testing, because sometimes the clinical signs are not enough to give you the whole story. So in this case, clinical signs are not going to be enough to tell us the whole story. We're going to need to go ahead, go further and do additional testing. We're going to check the thyroid function, and then we're going to check the iodine levels. All right, so the next one is one that we are all pretty aware of, iron, which the chemical symbol is Fe. It's ferrium is the medical term for iron. And we know it can't be I, because I was already taken by iodine. And the fact that iron, the chemical symbol is Fe for ferrium, this proves my point, Marvel aficionados, that Iron Man should have been a woman. Because if you, and some of you are looking at me like, okay, Miss Huff has just gone around the bend. Look at Iron Man. So we know the chemical symbol for iron is Fe. Another word for man, Iron Man.
Wow.
Mic drop. Iron Man should have been a woman.
No,
Because no, Joseph, don't you know me?
that was
That was
me.
Oh, I'm
Eric.
sorry, Eric. It did not show up. I just heard this now. And usually it's Joseph being a little sassy pants with me on a Friday morning. Eric is being a sassy pants.
Technically, there is a female Iron Man, but her name's not Iron Man.
I know. I know.
I
Ugh.
forget she goes to these comic shows and stuff, guys. She knows, she does her homework.
This this drives when I bring up this argument, because my significant other is huge, like since he was a child reading the comic books, huge Marvel fan. I don't know of anybody like he'll like I just let me watch the movie, and he's going into like, okay, well, the backstory of this character, and there was a crossover here, and I'm like, I don't care. Thor's hot. Just shut up. Just so when I brought this up to
Really
him,
the
he
purpose of
lost
the entertainment.
his damn mind. However, are you ever going to forget what the chemical symbol of iron is?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm never gonna see Iron Man the same either.
Female, just saying. All right, there was also a female Hulk.
Doesn't matter. Iron Man's gone.
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
Rachel,
All right, so
very
iron.
disrespectful.
Hey, he comes back, I heard.
Oh my
I didn't
gosh.
say
Okay,
everything, but
we've now gotten into a Friday morning Marvel comic debate. Oh geez.
There's too many of the movies to keep up, so I'm just like, I watch horror movies. I have like a low attention span anyways for movies.
Oh, I feel sad for you.
I'm doing good. I'm chilling.
I'm hurt.
I feel personally attacked. That was one of our
Very hurt.
Yeah.
Have I seen a meme that it says just guys telling some other dude says, I don't like The Office, and the other guy automatically says, unfriended. I thought of you.